On this episode of DC On Screen, Jason and I are reviewing Batman Returns with Matthew Carroll and J. Scotty St. Clair on yet another crossover with Bingers Assemble, right after these words from our mystery sponsors. Welcome into DC On Screen, the podcast that's been bringing you news and reviews of the DC Multiverse on film and television since 2015. I am David C. Robertson. Today is part 2 of our 3-part crossover event with Bingers Assemble. Part 3, where we talk about The Flash with Matt and Jay Scotty, will be available only on the Bingers Assemble feed, so be sure to find them and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Now, in case you were wondering, Jason and I have both avoided the news like madmen because too many spoilers have been showing up for The Flash. But we will resume bringing you news once we've seen the film and we get our review out to you. Before we jump into the show, thank you so much to our patrons, patreon.com/DCOnScreen, if you want to join their hallowed ranks. This is really the best way to support our show, and $5 a month gets you every episode ad-free, as well as fun exclusive content like Comic Castaways, where we pick a random character from comic book lore and discuss those characters. The latest episode, we talk about Firestorm villain Zuggernaut. He's basically Venom, but not a ripoff because he came first. But he is a Xenomorph ripoff, and he's hot pink. We had a lot of fun talking about it. I hope you come check it out. Anyway, on with our crossover with Bingers Assemble, where we're, of course, talking Batman Returns.
Welcome to Bingers Assemble, the podcast where we rewatch movies so you don't have to. My name's Matthew Carroll.
I'm J. Scotty St. Clair.
And again, with us today, we have our two friends from DC On Screen, David Robertson.
Howdy.
And Jason Goss.
Hello.
I think it's funny, a lot of times you introduce people, part of the reason you introduce everyone's names is so everybody gets a sense of everyone's voice, you know? That's like part of a audio medium. And I'm like, David Robertson's like, howdy! that is unhelpful.
Jason.
Commence the jiggling, y'all.
Commence the jiggling. Oh, one of my favorites. That's some animation. Worth covering right there.
Yeah, I like going between that character and a very similar character, Will Ferrell's old Prospector.
Yes.
Like, oh, Peaches.
Peaches is a trigger word right now for some people. Be careful.
I don't know. Is
it the Mario thing?
Yes, it's gonna get stuck in. It's stuck in my head now too.
Peaches.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, same.
There are people with children who have just been abusing the Spotify privileges.
Yep. Yeah. I'll do my best not to yell out Amazon Echo word play Peaches.
Oh my life.
For whatever reason, when I start singing that, I automatically it turns into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song from the 80s 90s cartoon. I can't avoid it for some reason.
Very good.
Peaches, 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 peaches,
That's pretty good.
Peaches.
Yeah. Maybe that was an intentional Jack Black reference because of the turtle theme.
Oh, okay.
Heroes eating mushrooms.
It's definitely turtle power, yeah.
That's the problem with Koopa. He's a turtle supremacist. Turtle power.
Bipedal turtles is what Mario sees when he eats the mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're ninjas! I'm a Mario!
And then they rap.
I mean, that's the movie. You've described it very well, yeah. There's turtles, some peaches, and then there's a rap, and it was a good time. I had a cry. It was good.
And that's a wrap.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into Batman 1989. We didn't discuss it before, but who wants to take the shot?
Batman Returns?
That's what I meant.
Yeah, 92's Batman Returns.
That's the one. That's what I said, right?
I defer to our guests, but if nobody's up to the task, I can take the shot this time around.
I took it last time.
I'd happily defer.
Go for it, Scoots.
Okay.
60 seconds on the clock, and Jay Scotty's going to tell us as much about this movie as he can do in 60 seconds. Go for it, man.
All right, it's Christmas time in Gotham, and 33 years in the past, we had the Cobblepots abandon their monstrous child in the sewers, and he has become known as the Penguin Man monster. Meanwhile, Max Schreck is a ruthless businessman who's trying to siphon off all of Gotham's power. He kills his secretary, and she goes on to become Selina Kyle. Well, she's already Selina Kyle, but she goes on to become reincarnated as Catwoman. And we basically have the Cat, the Bat, and the Penguin all going head to head. And the Penguin tries to murder all of the firstborn sons of Gotham with toxic waste and ends up using penguins with rockets on their backs instead. And Batman foils his plans, and his romance with Catwoman ends on a sour note. I think that's it.
Very well done. Still time on the clock.
Okay.
And you did good. Like, I kept thinking, okay, he's leaving this out. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it on a chaser. And you got to all the major
I'm over
elements.
here, like, did he mention that Penguin was running for mayor? I don't know.
Oh, I actually did not. Yeah, I missed that.
Did you mention the firstborn children kidnapping?
I did. That
That part,
got.
yes. Yeah.
I wasn't listening, but
I feel like we just did a good collective chaser, and we showed that Jay Scotty's shot was bulletproof. So we can just move on to the open bar if y'all want to.
you actually did a good enough job at the onset that I started to have a flashback. I was like, no. And
Okay, so you hate this movie, Dave? Is this?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
It sounds like you really dislike this one.
I don't like it very much.
Yeah, tell me all about it.
Yeah. Is that what we're doing?
Share your feelings.
I mean, we can. Yeah, it's open
Okay.
bar. We're gonna just like you see. You're being very vocal about your dislikes. So
It
just
is the
go
open
for it.
bar. Like, I feel like you're ordering Jaeger
enough.
right now, but yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Order
Fair
up
enough.
a whiskey, White Russian.
I don't drink. I don't know all your terms. I feel like there's a massive disconnect in this movie.
For sure.
Comparatively,
I wanted. Well, that's a different issue. I don't know, man. I don't care for how campy the villains are. And I'm not talking about Walken, because Walken is Walken, and I'm always happy with Walken. I love every scene that Christopher Walken is in.
Mhm.
But, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer, when she's Selena, either version, you know, top shelf. Wonderful. When she's Catwoman,
Agreed.
she is a cartoon.
Mm.
Penguin is a disturbing sexual fetish creature the entire
Yeah.
time, and he's a total cartoon.
100%.
but I do like his cartooniness in this one. It does fit it.
I did forget how horny he was. He's very horny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a deeply sexual movie for no good reason. Selena even talks about her cat getting laid.
Yeah, she does. It's a very sexual movie, and in ways that are disgusting to me, and in ways that I realize were formative to me sexually. Like watching
Oh,
Selena Kyle in
God.
this movie, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm having some core memories here. This is she is.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
I like her a lot in this movie. Not just gorgeous, but her attitude. I love the I don't know, vindictive, smash the patriarchy. I love
Yeah.
her in this movie so much.
You would have been like Keaton watching her get on the elevator. Like, nope, that's it. That's my heart right there. Call Vicky. Tell her to lose my number.
I love the "I'm leaving" line in that when he gets in the elevator. There's a whole run of lines, and I didn't write them down, but it's I'm flattered, I'm leaving, and then the door starts to close, and he goes, "I'm leaving," and he doesn't want to. It's a really great Keaton line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, I hate Michelle Pfeiffer's vocal fry when she's Catwoman.
It is a lot. It's more
Doesn't
for
bother
me.
me.
It's more her gestures than the
I
scene where
love
she
her
smashes her
gestures.
apartment is so deeply over the top that it feels like only Tim Burton could have been responsible for that.
See, this is what I started to see. Cause watching it again, it's one of that thing of Binge Assemble where we watch the movies close together. What I realized was a lot of the stuff that Jack Nicholson got to do in the first one, they gave to Michelle Pfeiffer in this one. A lot of the humor, she has a lot of little asides, a lot of little jokes and stuff, and then she's the one that has the very over the top freakouts and stuff. I just thought she was great.
Yeah.
I don't mind her over the top or that's not the part of this movie I don't like. The thing about this movie that I don't like, I think I like all the portrayals, they're weird. It's really weird. I don't know why this was a kid's movie. I've heard people talk about the past, like how pissed McDonald's was. They gave them a toy of like this weird child murdering fetish play penguin, like disgusting penguin guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because this scene where he's like eating the fish in front of the audience, it's like disgusting. It's just so disgusting when he bites the guy's nose off. It's all so gross. He's so disgusting.
But I have that toy like 8 feet from me in the closet, and it portrays nothing about that. Like
right, exactly.
No part of that is described in the toy itself.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. They had to like kind of like look. It's a rubber penguin and a rubber ducky. How cute! And like then you watch the movie, and it's like, what the hell are you trying to turn our kids into?
Yeah. You talked about like having core memories re-triggered, and for me, it is that sequence where he bites the dude's nose. Like I was traumatized as a young child from that scene. Like that is straight up horror right there.
That was rough.
More than anything sexually that Catwoman does is just the weird shit Penguin says. Like when he looks at Jan and goes, "I'd like to fill her void," or when he's like talking about like, "That's the biggest parasol I've ever seen." It's just like that's what triggered me. Like you wonder why I make such weird dick jokes and stuff. It's probably because of this movie.
Yeah, no, I think this movie scarred you for sure.
By a large margin, that was probably the first time any of us heard the word erogenous zones.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's about the children. He's like, all men and women are equal after their erogenous zones have been disintegrated or whatever. What the fuck?
Oh, they're gonna blow them. Yeah, we're gonna blow their dicks into the sky, is what he basically said.
Right, Jason. Little PSA: erogenous zones are more than just a dick. Like, there's a lot of erogenous zones. You should really you should really do some reading. It's really it's just for your own good.
Or his wife's own good. Hey,
it's probably a good note. I've just been focusing on her dick the entire time. Should maybe get more expensive.
I thought you were her dick.
Ownership is to be decided by the lawyers later.
But no, I brain farted earlier. What I was trying to say with like the disconnect is like Tim Burton said he didn't like one of his big things about coming back, which they really tried hard to get him back, and he wound up getting carte blanche and total creative control, and he didn't want to repeat himself. But I feel like the villains, all the actors who played the villains, all they wanted to do was repeat Nicholson. So they were, I feel like they were all trying to like up the ante, or
at least match it. Historic performance. I mean, I get having to follow that. I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That's just not what bothers me. I think what bothers me about this movie is the hero's journey is like the weakest sauce ever. Like, Batman is never having a struggle this entire movie. Like, and I have a problem with this in a lot of Batman movies because Batman is so perfect all the time. That's why I like things like Batman Begins and even The Batman more recently, where he's like actually having to learn and struggle and adapt. Because in this movie, it's like they do things like the whole hook of the movie is like, we have a plan. We're going to turn Batman into the bad guy. And they do that. And it has zero consequences, and he never has to really deal. There's a paper that says Batman blows it in one of the things. Like, that's it. Like, that's the extent of the next scene is him being like, well, I'll do it back. It's like, there's just no, Batman has total control the entire movie. They get his car, and they start running people down, and like, in a few seconds, he solves the problem. Everything is constantly solved by Batman. The penguins at the end, he never has to be a detective, because he never has to, like, solve anything. It's like he always has an answer for everything. It makes him OP, I feel like.
I'll push back on that a little bit. Like, it's not completely spelled out in the film, but the fact that he kind of determines that Penguin, he was adopted by like the circus freaks, and he actually revisited Gotham in the past, and he killed his parents. Like, that's what sets him up as like not trusting Cobblepot in the first place. And then he sees him there in the window, like writing down all the names, and he's like, he already knows who his parents are, so he's already like kind of one step ahead on the plot there. And those are actually reasons that I like this movie. I talked about with Batman 89 how much of an influence it was on the animated series, but I feel like this was almost like an episode of the animated series outside of the sexualization we talked about. But I even think with like the performances being a little more over the top and cartoony.
There was occasional animated though.
Yeah, but yeah, you get to have like villains cooperating with each other against Batman, and Batman often is like, he is kind of what you said there, Matt. Like a lot of times he is infallible and he's one step ahead, and I kind of like seeing Batman be able to do that. And I think in this film compared to the first one, we just get actually a lot more of Batman, like Batmaning and like having action sequences and doing his thing. So for those purposes, I like this movie. And I mentioned how this was the one growing up for me. This one got a little bit more play. And Dave, you mentioned like Burton getting more carte blanche, and I really think he got to like be more of an auteur here. And yeah, it loses some of the realism. It borderlines, kind of fantastical, but I just really kind of like that world and aesthetic. And I do agree that it feels a little disconnected from the first one because it feels like a different Gotham for those reasons. But I still find it to be an enjoyable ride.
I mean, it's a totally different Gotham as well. Like they abandoned the Anton First design sets at Pinewood and shot in the U.S. and redesigned it. And I think as I recall, they said that it was supposed to be like the first film was like the East Side and the second film is the West Side. So it's like, okay, whatever.
Sure.
But, but I'm like, this doesn't look anything like Gotham. Felix the cat is everywhere. Sure. I don't understand. Of course, that was because Burton said that he felt like in evil corporations always have like a cute logo like Mickey Mouse,
right?
So Shrek's department store had to have Felix the cat,
right?
I mean, I don't know. There's. I mean, honestly, a lot of the reason I don't like it is I feel like it's kind of boring.
Interesting.
Which is ironic because Burton said that he felt like he didn't like Batman, the first one, because it was too boring.
Well, see, and this is where I think my thoughts align with yours here, Dave. Is like, and I see where Jay Scotty's coming from. Like this movie gets a lot more Batmaning. Like you get like he's always in the streets using gadgets, doing fighting scenes, and it feels to me like it's too one note. Like it's always like there are multiple scenes. It's not like one of those. There's so many scenes with him fighting in the streets as Batman in the Batmobile using his gadgets that those scenes feel like they almost indistinct from one another. Like they didn't do enough to make the movie have a kind of that roller coaster feeling where you like have those quiet moments in the Batcave in the first one, or you have those quiet moments of him. And there's a few things like that in here. Don't get me wrong; it's not completely devoid of that, but I feel like the balance is off to the point that like there's a great amount of fun Batman and villain stuff, but I don't feel like the character stuff is there like there was in the first one. I don't feel like Batman is the only real Batman character stuff is the fact that he's kind of fallen for Selina, which I love. I love the Selina and Bruce relationship, but I don't know what Batman's going through, and I never get the sense that Batman is in trouble. I never get the sense that he's trying to overcome anything except for, I guess, hiding his identity from Selina.
Well, they were going for a certain thing, like the reflection of Cobblepot being, from an affluent family, but he was abandoned. There's that scene where Penguin says to Bruce or Batman, you're just angry because I'm a genuine freak and you have to put on a costume.
Yeah.
That was one of the best lines.
This is a good line.
And possibly one of the more interesting lines.
Yeah.
The fact that he agrees with him is so good.
Yeah, so it's like Penguin represents the orphan and Catwoman represents the vigilante. There's... I like what they were trying to do with that, but I feel like it wasn't very fleshed out.
I mean, the one note for me really had more to do with the fact that Batman... The one note between 89 and 92 for me is just like, he just falls in love again and decides he wants to reveal his identity. Like, it almost makes the Nolan version make sense, where like the first time he actually gets to fall in love and actually like everyone survives, he immediately is like, rip the mask off. I'm done with this shit. I was just waiting for something to come along that made me feel less lonely other than just being in a mask.
See, I loved that's the one thing I really, really love is their relationship, and I love him ripping the mask off because it's, we talked a lot about Vicky Vale finding out he was Batman because basically Alfred thinks he needs someone to know who he is. He thinks he needs that grounding, I think. And in this one, it's like he finds someone who he feels is the same as him, who she's not just the vigilante. She's also this person. She's got this duality. And like he thinks she's wrong in some cases, but he really feels connected to her and feels like maybe there's someone who can actually understand him. And he like decides to reach out to her and tell her the truth because he wants her to believe, or he wants her to like care about him or whatever.
I mean, you're right about that being an upgrade. Like that split down the middle speech is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love that he brought up Vicky and what their problems were, like her problem with the duality. And like that being like perfect justification for why he's so into this clearly nutso woman. He's like, no, she gets me.
Like, she cray too. We're good.
My kind of crazy, man. That's sometimes it's all you can hope for is finding your kind of crazy.
and speaking to unfleshed out reflections of Bruce, I really wish they had done more with Max Schreck because he's also a wealthy billionaire and he's also doing some shady shit. I mean, say what you want, Bruce is doing some shady shit. He's using his wealth for good, and Max is siphoning power.
She points out that they're above the law, and he points out that we're not. Like he knows what he's doing is illegal. Like you feel like if somebody actually did catch him and put him in jail, he'd be like, "You got me. I did as much as I could, as long as I could, but I belong here. You're right."
We praised Batman '89 for sort of a soft touch on certain things, and I feel like their touch was a little too soft on a couple of things here. Like just a little bit.
I really like your assessment of there's three main villains in this movie, and it's a billionaire, a vigilante, and an orphan. And it's like that's really, really beautiful, and that could have been driven home more and really made him examine himself and like see the reflection of the things they're doing and the way he does the same thing and make him question himself. There could have been a lot of cool things there, but they don't do that. It's there like for the taking, but they don't explore it.
I mean, I don't want it to be like heavy-handed like Picard and Shinzon and Nemesis or something where they just keep saying the word mirror and reflection over and over again. Sure.
They do very subtle things like when Cobblepot's originally on the screen telling about his parents on TV, it just, Batman gets really intrigued, really interested, and then he looks distracted and Alfred says, "Are you okay, Bruce?" And he's like, his parents. Like there's just like this little like there's acknowledgement that he
hope he finds them.
I love that.
But honestly, like the only person in this movie that actually cares about their kid seems to be Max at the end.
Yeah.
Like, of all the major characters.
That's one of my favorite things in this movie is Max Schreck's son, because it's just a guy doing a bad Christopher Walken impression, and I love it. Yes. He's walking around going, "Hi, Dad." Like, it's like not a good impression, but it's clearly he's trying to do a Christopher Walken impression.
Yeah. And even Christopher Walken kind of tones down the Christopher Walken for this movie a little bit.
He does, except for one line in particular, like stuck out to me, like talking about like the interplay between Bruce and Max when they're at the gala or whatever it is, and Bruce is talking about how he does care about who's mayor, and Max Schreck just goes, "Jan." It's just like he
just Jan.
Jan.
Also wondered, is that the first time we've ever seen that, like in that trope? I guess that was the first time I remember seeing anything like that, where somebody just says like "sad face," "sigh," "yawn," whatever.
I wonder if in the script it just said he yawns or he just says yawn, and they expected him to yawn, and he was just like, "No, I'm Christopher Walken. Yawn."
It reminds me of that. Y'all know the Hercules story with that disappointed thing or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's a great Kevin Sorbo thing where he is playing Hercules, and in the script it said, supposedly in parentheses, disappointed. He was supposed to, but he just yells it. He goes, "Disappointed!" And they left it in, and it is so bad and so funny.
That tracks, yeah.
Oh God.
he's playing like an evil version of himself too. So it's just really funny. There's a lot of memes out there on it.
Yeah, once you started to bring it up, it kind of came back to me. But yeah.
But yeah, it's very likely. It is funny because that yawn, that's a very like post-millennial thing because of texting. We're so used to texting our emotions. So for him to just say yawn is like it's way before its time, I think.
It felt like it to me. Like it felt like Valley before we had even started really making fun of Valley girls. Like even before that really got grounded.
Yeah. Well, speaking to how like Shrek, Penguin, and Catwoman are all like various reflections of Bruce, I appreciate everything that was brought up there. And yeah, maybe it's not as fleshed out as it could be, but it does make me think about when Penguin and Catwoman are teaming up and Catwoman says, like, we're going to turn him into what he doesn't want to be is us. And that's just like, again, he's just one bad day away from becoming them. So like, I appreciated that aspect of it. Could have been fleshed out a little bit more and explored a little bit more. Yes, but I appreciate what was there.
Well, they got sidetracked, threatening cats and putting birds in mouths and...
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Dude, there's so much of that weird shit that I just absolutely love, though. Like, absolutely love. There's so many weird decisions to put Cobblepot in his own toy Batmobile when he's controlling the Batmobile is so stupid and so funny. Yeah. It's like...
I hated it.
It's so stupid. It's so cartoony. Like, it's so funny to me, though. I really love... I love all of, like... Selena Kyle, you were talking about how Selena Kyle, either version is great, but even before she becomes Catwoman, I just absolutely love her, like, walking around when she's like, Batman leaves, and she's like, there goes Batman, like all the men in my life. And then she looks down at the clown who was trying to kill her and said, then there's you, but you need therapy.
Her little monologue there was probably my favorite part of Selena by herself. Especially like pre-Selena, we'll call her, I guess.
Well, even like I love it. She goes in and she's like, I know it's a little cheesy, I think, 'cause she does it twice. But when she goes in and says, like,
hey,
honey, I'm home. Oh, right, I live alone. But then that whole thing of her like listening to the messages and her being like, I guess I should have let you win that last racquetball game. Like, I really like the like building of her character and like the I don't know. She's just so snarky and fun, but she's demure. Because that's how she's been trained to be by society, but all that snark is already there before the cats,
Yeah.
She just lets it out at the end, after the cats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I admit, as far as like dating somebody, I think I would have liked pre-Catwoman more. Like, she does seem like...
Not me,
she
baby.
Is like,
Not
she's
me.
kind of weird and charming, like in her own little weird way. Like, I kind of like her.
Jason's like, I like them beaten down.
Yeah, exactly.
I like them downtrodden.
Yeah.
I don't want to put up a fight,
I definitely prefer the cat off the leash, man. Sorry.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it so much.
No, me too, but...
sarcastic but broken.
Yeah.
Like me. That's nice.
Yeah. Speaking of like beating down cats and threatening cats and whatnot, like you've often talked about how like saving the cat is like a motif to like create that heroic moment. The first time we get introduced to Penguin, he kills the cat instead. So I thought that was like kind of a nice inversion there. But just going back to Selena Kyle for a second, like I agree that voicemail sequence, like using that as a character building moment was great. But I think it's that one like compounded on top of when we first saw her in the meeting with Shrek and she's pouring the coffee and she knows that she has good ideas and wants to speak up and says, I have a question. It's actually, or I have a suggestion. It's more of a question, but then she just gets completely shut down. So it's like she has this fight and this desire in her, but it's just been squashed down so often and she ends up calling herself a corn dog. So it really makes that transition that she goes on later and becomes like this, being a man, I feel kind of weird speaking about it, but I see her as like a icon of like feminism and like female
Absolutely.
empowerment. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you, man.
I was a little confused in that one scene though, like, because I feel like the trope is normally like when she says the thing about the idea and then everybody just basically leaves her, but we're left alone with her and the camera to watch her clean up. I feel like the trope is normally that she kind of mutters under her breath, well, I was going to ask this or say this. And it's something just wildly brilliant. But they just sort of like she just never actually even gets it out of her tongue. Like,
Cat had her tongue.
yeah. Like, I was a little surprised we didn't actually hear what that was, but you know,
Yeah, it was too.
there again later, not surprising to find out that she just did a light hack of his freaking emails and not emails, his computer, and put together the entire mystery of whatever this like Thomas Edison.
She solved the case or whatever.
What was the
character was
Chihuahua's name? Geraldo or something?
Geraldo.
Yeah, okay.
It really is what was I the only one thinking Thomas Edison the whole time, especially when he gets electrocuted at the end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, but I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hair, bow tie feels right.
The Home Alone movies came out at a very similar time, and I just got flashbacks of not Harry, Marv getting electrocuted and seeing the skeleton there.
Yeah.
The Max Schreck look was actually, based on an old Vincent Price movie. Apparently,
Okay.
Nice.
Tim Burton said it was based on Vincent Price's appearance in some old movie. He
Interesting.
didn't say what movie.
Interesting. I
Just I watched a movie once.
It's Tim Burton, man.
Yeah.
love the scene where she comes into her apartment, and I know David, you were saying this is not your favorite scene, but I love it. When she comes into her apartment, because it's that like. It's the feminist ideal you're talking about, J. Scotty, where she decides like she's going to stop being the demure person she's been trained to be, and she's going to be the cat. And like she goes around like stuffing all those stuffed animals into the like. It's really cheesy, but it's like I love it. I love the hello there turning to hell here. Her standing in the window and like the such a comic panel with hell here behind her and like in the pink light with the black suit. I love it. And it's just her emerging as like, and then I also love like it's this feminism, but it's also a feminism that's sort of driven to the point of anger and even anger at other women that are more like she used to be. There's that scene where she like is angry because the woman's like, she grabs the woman by the face after saving her and says, "You make it so easy, just waiting on Batman to save you." And it's her own self-loathing for who she used to be, you know?
Yeah. There's some projection there.
So much cool stuff going on with Catwoman in this movie.
But then, you have her alone in an apartment rubbing herself and saying, "I feel yummy."
Yeah.
And I just like, ugh. Like, that's weird. That's weird. I mean, I get it. Like, Burton was going for, like, dominatrix shit. He said that. Like, okay.
And cat shit. Like that. Well, not cat shit. I mean, she does fall into litter at one point, but she's going for cats sit around licking themselves and feeling themselves. You know, that's the one of the things that we always say about cats is they're the kings of the house when they're in a house. You know, they're dogs are subservient. Cats are our leaders. And like she's just sitting around the house, like sitting in a sunspot, feeling herself.
There are no sunspots in Gotham.
Good point. I forgot. It's a Tim Burton movie. That's why she's so disgruntled. There's no sunspots.
Yeah.
If it's not good, it's smoggy. That's all it is.
Yeah. When you first started bringing up that scene where she has that exchange with the woman about making it so easy, I thought you were going to go for the woman that was going to do like the lighting at the ceremony when they target her. Because you talked about previously how some of Batman's like action sequences kind of like they feel repetitive or they don't really stand out as unique or anything like that. But it did make me think about how they got their hands on the Batarang, and that is such a great sequence when the camera like tracks behind the Batarang. Like that one really stood out to me about how well those effects stood up, and I just thought it was really cool and unique.
I like that they kind of make a point that he does leave some stuff around town.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like, there's a bunch of stuff where he'll like, because of the effects of the day and everything, they don't have like the CGI to make him like make his his glider or whatever, like not glider, his zip line.
Oh,
Zip line.
There you
he
go.
uses that zip line things, and like in a modern day telling, he'd probably like press a button, it would like disengage, and he'd put it back on his belt. But this is like a 90s movie; they didn't have that, and so he just like leaves it. Like, I was just thinking like, does he have like a guy going behind him? Like, I was thinking there had to be like a story of like a servant helper guy that like runs around after Batman picking up the stuff.
His name is Alfred.
Well, yeah, but Alfred doesn't do that in this movie, and I think that would be a funny bit if Alfred did do that. Like, he's got GPS locations on all of his stuff, and he goes around like, all right, let me unhook this from this wall and roll it up. He's like, at the end of a gig when I have people wrapping cables, he's like that guy.
Like, Commissioner Gordon finds him, and he's like, why is Bruce Wayne's butler cleaning up after Batman? He's like, just tidying up, sir.
No, I'm imagining Alfred with like a black hoodie and a ladder, just muttering under his breath at the like, I guess midday, because that's the only time he'd get a break. Just him in a pickup truck going around grabbing up the zip lines. Like, God, why do they have to be so deep in the cement?
How do I fit all this on one suit? I don't even understand.
Yeah.
The bed of the truck is full of Batman gear. It's like way more than he could ever hold.
I mean, other than that, he's just leaving like multi-million-dollar IPs just chilling around town in alleys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Speaking of Batman leaving things around, did he leave the blueprints for the Batmobile around?
So you mean because the circus gang controlled it or whatever? Yeah, that
so
was
Matt,
weird.
what you were saying earlier about how he's never challenged, that was the funniest part to me, is like, no, the most challenged he felt in the entire film was when he was trying to get his car back. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
That's the most he's out of sorts.
Speaking of car scenes, this is a boat scene, but the Bat-boat scene where he's riding around and he's got the radar is one of my favorite things in this movie, because he's riding and the radar, any other movie, any other director would have just had dots on the screen showing like what was going on, but it had like a fully animated like penguin sequence on the little animation screen. Like, these little penguins are flying down the corridors and he's chasing them. That is so funny.
And there's a duck later on the same screen.
Yeah, no, the duck.
I'm honing in on the duck.
It's so weird and so funny.
As far as weird and funny goes, can I tell you my favorite line of the entire film? Honestly,
Go for it.
The one that I had to pause because I was laughing when I rewatched this last week. When he's up there and he's coming for the firstborn, he's going to get Chip, and Max talks about the iota of human, whatever. He isn't it me you want to see up to my eyeballs in raw sewage? And in the duck. In the duck floored me. Yes, I do not know why.
Completely agree. In the duck is great. Another really funny moment that cracked me up was when Batman slow rolls by Cobblepot inside the library or whatever, where he's looking up inside the archive, because it's so silly. Like, Batman in the he could have done that as Bruce Wayne. Like, he could have done it more inconspicuous, but it reminded me of all the stories you hear of people being like rolling by their ex's house, like to see what's going on. Yeah, like he slow rolls by the house, by the little place, looks in the window. No one notices that Batman's there. Like, it cracked me up, man. I don't know why that's so funny.
We're all just going to look the other way? Okay. Cool.
When you're stalking someone, how often do you actually see them with the windows open, them just sitting there? Like, is that a thing? I would think it wouldn't be. I never sit, with my windows open. I'm in my house. My windows are closed. If someone was stalking me, they would never see me.
I don't ride down a random street and just think, oh, I've seen into all these people's lives. Like, no, they're blinds. People use blinds or curtains.
Well, Penguin does mention his proclivity towards the cold, so it would make sense that he might have the window open on a winter day in Gotham.
That's
also true.
That's some good headcanon.
Okay, Jay.
Some other weird choices. Choice to make this at Christmas time. Didn't really affect the plot, really. They just it gives them a few weird Christmas lines, but I think just Tim Burton loves Christmas.
Yeah, you get the final line: "Merry Christmas, Alfred." Goodwill towards all men and women. Yeah.
Which that line killed me. I thought that line was really dumb.
Yes, it was,
because it was like Batman realized women existed. Like, that's what this plot did. It's like, yes, that was Catwoman. Was like, here I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. She says it. She's like, she's a feminist icon. All of that, but the. sorry. Like, we talk about like villains that like they lose the battle but win the. argument
Moral
or whatever.
Argument, yeah.
We haven't talked about like Killmonger, like he loses, but like he wins the argument. So Catwoman won, but she did convince Batman that women were a thing.
Even when he's driving away, like I would love to think that what happens is he's like, goodwill towards men, and then he lifts the cat up and doesn't see a dick, and he's like, and women.
Sorry,
well, see, I went with he only realized he remembered women when he was sitting there literally stroking a pussy. He like strokes the cat and looks at it and goes, and women.
And women.
Like,
I get the line. It's supposed to be more personal. It's supposed to be like he's thinking of Selena and women. Like I hope she's doing well. I think, but like, that's my charitable interpretation of the line. But I hate the line.
I think it comes from a good place. But like, it feels weird, especially almost 30 years later at this point.
Yeah,
is it 30 years later? Dear God.
Speaking of 30 years later, like. This is the first time it kind of stuck out to me that like Penguin is supposed to be like circa 33 years old, and
yes,
how old was Danny DeVito when this came out? I get that there's toxic waste down there, but come on,
he was 19.
It's a really good point. Speaking of 33 years old, there's definitely other weird choices. There's the Christmas thing, but another weird choice is to make him a weird Moses analog in the beginning.
Sure. Yes, that was strange.
Then to say 33 years later. Anyone who like grew up in church,
is a very particular number.
33 years is a very like particular. That's when Christ died. So like everyone like 33 years later feels very deliberate. Like they're making him a Moses analog and a Christ analog in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
Covering the Old and the New Testament, baby.
It worked for Superman.
That's where I was going. I was thinking one of the writers must have been like doing Superman research or something like that. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like that's what's so weird. You do that kind of thing when you're trying to represent the hero. You always have like Spider-Man hold a cross pose. Like you do these things and you're like, hey, look, it's a Christ thing. But then when you do it for the Penguin, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say when you're doing this weird like fetish?
They give him like half a hero arc. Until he turns on the bat, video jammer and basically crushes his entire candidacy in like one soundbite.
The PR is a hero arc, but his like we know it's fake. Yeah. And earlier in the Batman does the research and finds out everywhere the circus went. Firstborn children went missing. Right. Like he's been murdering children. This is not a new thing. This is a villain who's been murdering children his whole life to get back at them for having parents.
Has he been murdering children, or were the Red Circus gang, Red Circle, whatever the hell they were called?
Red Triangle gang.
Red Triangle gang, that's it. The Red Triangle Circus gang, they were kidnapping children. They just happened to also take in Oswald.
Oh, that's a good thought. That's a good thought.
And he was like, hey, if all this goes south, I know what you guys are good at.
Yeah.
Circusing.
That makes me think of the line from The One Henchman. He's like, murdering little kids in their sleep. Isn't that a little... And then he gets shot by the penguin.
It's a lot.
Yeah. That reminds me of a thing the Joker would do in the first one. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, just that gunshot.
Yeah. By the way, there is so much stuff in this movie that I feel like was a remnant of a previous draft. Because, like... the scene, like there's a weird scene where like Bruce talks about fixing the Batmobile, and Alfred's like, well, it's not like we could just take it to any old mechanic or whatever,
right?
And Bruce just counters with, you're worried about security, who let Vicky in the Batcave? But a previous draft would have featured Robin, as played by Marlon Wayans, as a mechanic,
the actual mechanic.
And I'm wondering if Bruce was supposed to eventually find Dick, take the Batmobile to him to fix, and then that maybe the Red Triangle game would have traced it back to him, and that's how they got the schematics.
Okay,
that tracks. I like that.
Would have been nice. How many people have broken into the Batmobile? Because I only remember 2 now. And I loved the previous. Maybe it's just my memories. Maybe there's some canon I'm forgetting, but I loved the previous version where the only person who ever actually really got in that thing was like Jason Todd. And now it's like, who's the whole list? Jason Todd and some random carnies. Like it cheapens it a little bit to me.
It's Jason Todd and Doug Jones.
Yeah.
Literally.
Was that Doug Jones?
The skinny clown?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Who
That's
plays
awesome.
the thing? That was Doug Jones. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
When I saw him smile as he was putting it in, I was like, wait, that's Doug Jones! Yes!
Help me, IMDb.
We've talked about a lot of good and bad lines in this movie, but one of the worst ones for me was "Eat Floor." High fiver. It was really bad.
Yes.
I don't know. Batman should have cool lines, cool one-liners here and there, but that was terrible.
That was bad.
It's
But
so
you know
bad.
what? Apparently, it could have been a lot worse because when Daniel Waters took over writing, he gave Batman a ton of dialogue, and Michael Keaton apparently just came in and was just like crossing it off. Like, nope, Batman shouldn't be talking.
Terrible. Out of ink. Hand me another pen. Terrible.
Which, the whole thing is frustrating because Sam Hamm, the guy that wrote the first one, he wrote his version of it was Billy D. Williams as Two-Face. It was a natural progression. And then Burton was like, I want to do the same thing. Bring in Daniel Waters. And then he had a fight with him by the end of it and brought in another guy, Wesley Strick. And he took out a bunch of stuff and was responsible for the whole mayor, Penguin being a mayor, I think, or maybe he wasn't. I know it was inspired by the 66 episodes where Penguin runs for mayor.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a theme, yeah. I'm curious, in your history, do you remember, did John Peters fuck with this one too, or just...
No, that part of that, I wanted to mention that part of Tim Burton's getting carte blanche is he banned John Peters from the set.
Nice.
He demoted him from executive producer to producer and then banned him from the set.
Wow.
Was that before or after the Superman thing?
I don't know.
Had to have been before.
John Peters, of course, as Kevin Smith tells it, is the former hairdresser of
Barbra Streisand.
Barbra Streisand, who didn't want Superman to fly and didn't want him to wear that, quote, gay costume, as he said.
Yeah, and want him to fight a giant spider in the third act.
He had to fight a giant spider. John Peters is a dipshit and should be banned from all sets.
He's a lunatic who should not be allowed anywhere near LA.
Another line I really liked, I mistook me for someone else.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
Something that kills me about that story you just told, Dave, about him crossing out all of Batman's dialogue, I think that's part of what I don't like about this movie, is that, I've said it, that I feel like his hero's journey is missing. And part of that is there's so much Batman in this movie and so little Bruce Wayne. And if they took all his dialogue away, that might be part of that hole that I'm feeling. I feel like this movie, and I feel like all Batman movies do this to some degree. They all feel like they're about the villains, and Batman is sort of this almost mythic force in them sometimes. But when any movie's at its best, there's got to be a character at the heart that you can root for. And I think Selina functions like that through a lot of this movie. Even the one really bad thing they do, which is kill. Most of the things Selina does are sort of vengeful and sort of righteous, and the one thing she's a part of that isn't good is when they kill the princess, Ice Princess. But then she says, "You were only supposed to scare her."
Yeah,
she looked pretty scared to me.
Yeah.
But they absolve Selina's character of that crime, and so sort of
she wasn't going to go full villain.
Yeah, and in the end, she's the one that takes out Max Schreck. She sort of does become this, character, protagonist you can follow through the movie. But Batman's just absent almost. I feel like he's Batman. He's being his Batman self, but there's almost no dialogue. There's almost no internal struggle, internal movement.
Well, part of that apparently is because when Keaton came in and saw the dialogue, most of the dialogue was Batman was super bitter and nihilistic. And talked about how the people of Gotham weren't worth saving.
Oh, no.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, that was a good call. That was a good call.
Good at it, Michael. Good at it.
They probably haven't earned that darkness yet, even with facing off with the Joker. I don't think he's earned that nihilism yet.
I mean, I still agree with Napier's version, no one who lives here isn't crazy kind of thing. You just may go into a department store and the next thing you know, you turn around and there are 4 demon skeleton heads on motorcycles and a fire breather outside. That's your day.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Tuesday night. You went home that night. You didn't even lose sleep. You just went to work the next day.
Normal people don't live here.
Yeah.
They'd be happier someplace else.
Like in Bloodhaven.
You talking about Batman not struggling internally. I challenge that because I would say after he got stabbed in the abdomen, he was certainly hurting on the inside there.
And when she does it again, he's like,
That's
son of a
fair.
bitch.
Yeah. I do like that he actually does get injured and kind of has to pamper that little spot a little bit, because it did seem like in '89 he was almost like impervious to that. Like, I don't remember seeing a lot of bruises on Keaton, period, except for a couple scratches now.
That's why Catwoman's so dangerous, because Bruce lets her get close.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he lets her, he's so wrapped up in her that he lets her go, this isn't you. This, like, literally pointing at his armor and saying, can't kill you here, can't kill, ooh, I found a spot, and stabs him, and
right.
Batman lets that happen, you know what I mean? Like, he's so impervious in the first one because he's not tempted, he's not letting anyone get in that close to him.
In that sense, it's realistic. Matt, you've owned cats.
That's true.
Dave, you too. Like, they get just close enough and you're like, oh, so cute. Oh my God, why did you scratch my nose?
Why did you do that? It really is. It's so funny how many of those little things through the movie are a very cat thing. Like the like, hey, I'm a cat. I love you. I'm your friend. Scratch your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of scratching, what about Batman using a CD like a turntable?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I
Oh
hate
God, fuck that. And why does he have the bat symbol on it?
Because they were expecting to sell some.
Uh-huh.
That tech was not good enough for that right then.
The heroes and the villains taking their time to put their own stamps on things is the stuff I can get behind. It's so stupid, but I love it. I love that, like, everything the Penguin has is branded with, like, rubber duckies and penguins and whatever, and, like, I just love that stuff.
Well, see, Jason, when he watched it, he was bringing up to me, like, why the hell does Penguin have, where did he even get that giant duck?
Oh, the duck is, not to spoil it, but the duck is my top and bottom shelf, for God's sake. It's the whole spectrum.
It is, like, literally the Gotham City Zoo. And, like, leading up to Arctic World, there are, like, 15 of those giant ducks hanging from, like, industrial wire, like, outside. I assume they just had, like, that's where his little, like, Moses basket wound up. So I'm assuming he just, like, grew up and looked around and went, either they took one of those ducks down and put, like, a motorized cart underneath it, or they already had that son of a bitch underground in Arctic World just hanging out for the kids,
Yeah.
I assume he upgraded it. But also, like, you remember the outside of his little tiny, by the way, his parents, the Cobblepots are...
yes.
Fuck them. Jesus Christ. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I was about to say, he had a tiny duck outside of his cage.
He had a tiny duck outside the cage where he ate
Foreshadowing.
the white cat. But, like, like, what are you doing? Like, getting toasted on martinis while your kid's in a cage?
Yeah.
You didn't help the situation.
Even from a young age, young Oswald was fascinated with eating pussy.
Yes.
I can see you putting that marker down.
And in canon, that's the closest we got.
Something we always talk about is, like, especially preparing for this new Flash movie coming out, like, what are the character things in this movie that you feel like we'd love to be paid off in a appearance of Batman, which we're going to get an appearance as Batman in, like, 2 weeks. So what do we want? What do we want out of an appearance of Batman from 30 years ago?
For me, learning. I mean, the gadgets were good the whole time.
Yeah.
That's never been a problem. The presence was good. He was great at posing in, shadowy alleys, and the fear was always there. But, like, learning, I guess partly because of like, without what Dave said about how it was all nihilist before, it does seem like the Keaton Batman doesn't really have a lot of actual hope for Gotham. So I would like to see some change for that. That it's not just him, like, because this version of Batman feels like he was just going to fight for about another 20 years or so, give up, and just be like, well, I give my best, and nothing really changed. And I would like to see a little more hope out of that one. But with Ezra coming along, I think I'm pretty hopeful myself about that having some direction.
That's a great idea, and I think that could be maybe he hasn't had hope for 30 years. Maybe he's toiled it on his own for 30 years trying to make this thing work, and all he's done is create more villains, and we get to see like a glimpse of like all the villains he's fought and the little bit of difference he's made, and then he finally gets to be a part of something bigger with the Flash coming in. Maybe this is a Batman that doesn't exist in a world with the Justice League or whatever, and this is a Batman that doesn't have that, and suddenly he gets to see like, oh, we can change everything with these powers, and like maybe we get to see him do some of that. That'd be neat.
Yeah,
and that has some Batfleck vibes to it, which would be pretty sweet to see, frankly, because we're going to see them both together.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how on the last episode you mentioned like getting to see like Nicholson's Joker in like an alternate dimension or something like that. How great that would be! But that also makes me think like, as much as I do like this movie, I can't think of like any good like lines or callbacks that they could do that would be quite as effective or have the same resonance. Like we know from the trailer that he's going to give that line, "You want to get nuts, let's get nuts," or even like "Wait till they get a load of me," or something like that. Like I can't think of any lines like that. So just thinking that like this is an older Batman that's been around for so long, and this movie ends with the thread that Selina's still out there and Bruce still has some affection for her, even if it's just through dialogue or something like that. If we learn more about what their relationship kind of looked like and maybe some of the lessons he learned along the way, and maybe they had a romance that was on and off again, or maybe he's just completely sworn off of being able to like open up and let people get that close. Like you mentioned, he let her get that close to hurt him. It would be cool just to learn more about some of his adventures in between.
I'd love to see Michelle Pfeiffer return as Catwoman.
That'd be great.
It would be insane. But I mean, she was just in Ant-Man Quantumania. Like she's up for doing comic book movies. She would be like, if there's a scene we just haven't seen yet, and she's like in the Batcave with them or whatever, it would just be like she's been a part of his life, and like he got to have that happiness with her. Like that would be so freaking cool. Because like I said, formative sexually. I don't know why, but like I was like 9, so whatever. But like this movie, like this Catwoman is very much like not just sexually, but like I really like her like fire and how she like fights for herself and how she advocates for herself, and I really like who she is as a person, even though she's a little nuts. And going through a lot, I really love who she is, and it really like I would love to see the Batman was happy with her all this time. It'd be really great.
How awful would it be if we just find out that she effectively just took over for Alfred? And she's just Selina from the beginning of the film, where she's just like skulking around the manor, like muttering to herself, completely like crushed by the patriarchy that is Bruce Wayne.
That's terrible.
Clean up after this billionaire.
That would be awful.
I can see that. Barry is like, Batman, I didn't know you had a secretary. It's executive assistant.
Yeah.
That's terrible. This is terrible. This is the worst version of reality, guys.
No, we're post this. It's going to be like assistant to the manager. No, I'm assistant manager.
Well, if they do bring her back, so what we're saying, if they did bring her back, we need her not to be that. Like she needs to have like she needs to be Catwoman, not original Selina Kyle. She needs to have been his partner, not his like assistant or like sidekick. Sure. I'd love to see that. There might be a reason she can't go through time with him or whatever, but like it'd be great to see if there was like you saw that they were partners or something like that. That'd be super cool.
I could probably like fathom a way to write it, but I feel like based on the ending of Batman Returns, there's no way for me to feel good about her being with Batman in any capacity. She says, "I would love to like live with you in your mansion forever, but I just couldn't live with myself." To me, that feels like end of the road. Like she can't have another man save her. Another man with all of his money, sweep her off her feet and save her. Even if she's like with him in his mission, doing the shit, she's still in his house, using his money, his gadgets. I don't feel like she would do it. I don't feel like that version of the character would abide that.
I mean, probably not, but she mentions like in order, I think it was like Max killed me, Penguin killed me, Batman killed me. That's 3 lives. But Batman's the only one that's not dead by the end. Like she does what she's supposed to Max as far as that goes. Infamously.
I definitely see what you're saying, Dave, but I think there's like it would be development they would have to build into her appearance. But like, I think what she's saying there is she doesn't want to be his executive assistant. You know what I mean? She doesn't want to be his, but like, I think there's a world where you build that story where she's his partner. Like I was saying, I think like it wouldn't have to feel like she's just his buddy or whatever, or like his assistant.
She's probably long dead.
That's true.
You know, she had
one life left.
She only had one. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was burning through those things.
And she was only saving it for next Christmas. So presumably this ended in 93.
Well, if you want to consider Forever at all canon, they did have her whip in the police in the police evidence room.
Yeah, do you guys consider Batman and Robin and Batman Forever canon to this universe?
No, I don't.
Me neither.
It's every actor is a different franchise for me on that.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I did. When I was younger, I was like, oh, well, these are just the 4 Batman movies. But, like, no way. This is... And I mean, like, you even have Chris O'Donnell goes between them.
So does Michael Goff as Alfred and Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon.
Right. But I completely think this... For me, these two stand alone.
That would be fun to see Keaton and Flash be like, yeah, there were a couple other versions of me too, but don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's possible. We'll see. I have not been following the news. I hear there's spoilers out there. There's some, like, cameos that have been revealed in news that, like, be careful out there. There's apparently cameos in the movie that have not been in trailers and have not been officially announced, but are on the internet already. People are already talking about him. Apparently, one of the director came out. I was talking to my buddy Gary yesterday. Apparently, the director came out and said, like, some of the cameos. He's like, "You're gonna be like, love to see this person," and everyone was like, "What the hell? Why are you spoiling it?" So be careful out there.
Yeah,
Andy, you waited like 12 years. Just hold on another couple days.
Yeah, for real.
Less than 2 weeks out at this point. Like,
yeah,
I've seen a lot of rumors, and I don't know which ones to believe because I know Warner Brothers has been testing the movie and going back and cutting certain things out and adding certain things and then cutting things. They've been going back and forth. So I don't know what we'll eventually actually get to see.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this movie has had such development hell. Like, I'm just honestly kind of in disbelief that it is 2 weeks away. We're actually getting it after everything we've been through.
Yeah. And here's the crazy, but did you see that Variety piece that just came out that said that, they added, like, when the movie had early screenings, like, a month ago or whatever, they left off the ending. It ends abruptly. There is a secret ending that's coming for its actual release, and they already have a sequel written.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
That's the little news portion of DC on Screen this week.
Nice.
Speaking of how Catwoman groomed me,
oh God!
This scene that she says, "Sickos never scare me. At least they're committed." Like, I just think that line is so tailor made for like young boys who like are sort of fearful of themselves, fearful of sexuality and stuff. Like, sickos never scare me. At least they're committed. It's just so.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you're saying there's a chance with this beautiful goth girl. I'm sticking the course. I'm going to be a sicko the rest of my life.
And here we are.
This version of Catwoman feels like the latter days of Led Zeppelin that was responsible for Van Halen. You know what I mean? Like, because of Selena Kyle in this movie, we got, like, throughout the entirety of the 90s, just like all of the really schlocky, cheesy, vocal fry, goth femme fatales.
Yeah.
Who had pithy one-liners. Like,
I feel like you're saying there's a problem with that. And I don't.
Yes, for the love of God.
I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. Okay, let's move to bottom shelf. Let's bail out of this.
Yeah. Well, for lack of a more natural segue, real quickly before we get to bottom and top shelf, I wanted to call out a couple of last things here. Awesome use of the Wilhelm scream. Used to great effect in this movie.
That. Yeah, good job.
I love any time the Wilhelm scream pops up.
Where was it? I missed it.
I think the circus scene.
Yeah. He's just punching goons left and right, and one guy goes over the side of like a little brick wall. Yeah,
he just literally like throws a guy and goes, whoa!
yeah. And awesome. Then Danny Elfman's score again. Like, he established the theme in the first one, and I love the Prince soundtrack, but the fact that we get Danny Elfman gets more time in the film to flesh out some additional themes. I really think they just add to the atmosphere and the like tone of melancholy. It was like, especially those like when you have Penguin's basket going down the river and you have like those vocalizations, like that's just really haunting and super cool. So Danny Elfman was definitely like hitting his stride there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned or Batman mentions. I said you mentioned. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm Batman.
Yeah,
you don't know.
He's like, you're looking like you have the Christmas blues, and I think like the Tim Burton, the Christmas, and the Danny Elfman are all part of this like melange of things that makes you feel just a little melancholy in this movie. You know, like more than a little. I think the addition of Christmas and the Danny Elfman is like such a huge part of why this movie feels so moody.
Yeah. Plus, it was a moody Christmas movie that released in the summer.
Right?
It's just like Tim Burton being like, have the anti-blockbuster. And by the way, it made like less than half, I think, of what the original made. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I think that makes sense. As much as I really enjoy this movie and I have great memories of it, I feel like it's not as accessible. It's just a lot weirder. And I feel like people weren't like just going back every day to see it like they were with Batman.
Agreed.
I think just like as evidence with this conversation we had, it's a lot more polarizing, but that I kind of admire it for that. I wish, like, I love comic book movies. I think Marvel has like definitely established a great tone and whatnot, but I wish more movies were willing to take like the big swings and like really embrace a style like this movie does. Like I like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I like it a lot, but when we got that concept of Multiverse of Madness, I really wanted to go balls to the wall with that.
Yeah.
Like having Sam Raimi come in and add some horror, aesthetic to it. Like I liked it, but I just wish it would have like taken it up a notch. And like, so in that regard, I think comic book movies today could kind of take a page out of this book. Yes, do more character work and flesh out these ideas a little more solidly, but don't be afraid to have like these big stylistic choices and swings. I'd like to see more of it.
Yeah, I might not love this movie. I don't. But I agree with you. Like, I would rather have movies that I don't like rather than that took bold creative choices.
They took some shots,
than just like the formula, which is what Marvel is often accused of doing, and what DC has definitely started doing at times, trying to emulate Marvel.
Sure,
I'm like, can we do something interesting? No, like I loved Multiverse of Madness. You know what I mean? Like I love Sam Raimi though.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave, I fully know you'd rather save movies you don't like. You do the DC podcast. Oh, sorry. I'm just teasing.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
You lined it up too easy. But no, I I agree with you guys completely. I think that the auteur nature of this movie and like him being able to do whatever he wants gave it this just weird flair and makes it just. I think the first one too. Like I mentioned last time, so many weird elements coming together that don't feel like they should even fit, but they do. And I think that Tim Burton did a great job on these, like making them very singular.
You know, a lot of certain people have said that Tim Burton maybe, like the first Batman was maybe 50% Tim Burton because he had so much pushback from the studio.
Yeah.
Because he'd never done a big movie before.
Yeah. Right. And that therein lies the magic of filmmaking. Some of the best movies, like we always talk about how we want the auteurs and we want the creatives to get whatever they want, but sometimes those creatives need the reins too. And it's like sometimes you need that balance between, and when you have really great executives who are giving really great notes, which do exist, sometimes you get this like balance of like, okay, I see what you're saying. Like, I want to do my weird thing, but maybe just it's weird, but it's weird a little less, or it's like angle it a little this way or that way and make it more palatable, make it more normal, more accessible. And I think that's what you get with that first Batman. It's got its weirdnesses, got a lot of weirdnesses. The Joker is weird as hell, but it also like maintains a structure that this one kind of loses, I feel like.
You know, I was telling Jason, I think the thing this movie really misses is Prince.
Oh, yeah. He could have covered over a lot of wrongs.
They got Super Freak, which was nice.
Yeah, we didn't. I don't remember any other song in that movie.
No, that it's literally the entire score, and then there's one Muzak version of Super Freak, I think.
Yeah,
That's so weird.
Well, there's one while Bruce and Selena are dancing in that weird party where everyone's wearing buildings on their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. There's some like really angsty lady singing. It's like, and I don't know who it was. I don't remember, but it was like not a memorable song. And I have looked it up like so many times in my life, and it was just like, I'm gonna finally just like really listen to that Batman Returns soundtrack. No, I just can't do it. It's not good. It's not good. I'll put on Batman Forever soundtrack over and over again.
Batman Forever soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
That was one of the Seal, best. Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Seal,
Mazzy Star,
Smashing Pumpkins, I believe.
Nick Cave, Flaming Lips.
Yeah, really great. Really great soundtrack.
Brandy had a great track on there. And Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me by U2.
Yeah.
It's
all good. I used to have
that
whole thing and listen to it over and over.
Yeah. Actually, the Batman and Robin soundtrack is really good too.
Oh yeah,
it is the best part of that movie.
There was a time where this was like the thing to do. And really Batman, the first one, was what started that whole trend. Superhero movies having songs that spun out of them to be big hits with Prince. But this one just completely ignored that idea because Tim Burton wanted to do his thing and not kowtow to that corporate like pressure to be like, how about we make a hit song too? Tim Burton was like, nah.
He's like, we'll have Danny Elfman do the score, and then for the second score with the pop, we'll do Oingo Boingo. Just Danny Elfman again.
This is probably a good point, though. Is like on the second one, they lost so many points for that. Like
maybe,
yeah, the soundtrack was shite. I mean, after the first one being so good, that was a good lesson on the second one. They came back strong for 3.
Batman Returns more than any other had the most banging merch.
Oh yeah,
Batman Returns merch was fantastic, man. I have bed sheets. I have Batman Returns bed sheets. The coloring books were fantastic. They, you find coloring books these days, they look like shit. Man, these were top shelf. They look good.
It's really funny when you try to track the things that do well and don't do well. Like oftentimes sequels that aren't considered good are bigger than their predecessors because people love the first one so much that they go see the second one. Like it's like some of these movies that have cult followings. The second movie does great, and everyone hates the second movie, but it does great. It does great financially, and I think that's sort of a thing with like the merch. No one realized how huge Batman would be when that first one came out, and so when the second one came out, the merch people were ready. The merch gods descended on that second movie, and they put out tons of stuff.
Yeah, I still have pencil pouches,
and I wonder if it's why a lot of us like still got into animated series too. Like that, there was a lot of hype at that time.
Absolutely. Animated series came out what year?
Like 92.
92. Okay, so it kind of came out coinciding with this movie.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, let's get to the wrapping up. Let's do a quick round of bottom shelf, top shelf. What you guys got for bottom shelf?
For my bottom shelf, I'm gonna kind of go back to what Dave mentioned about like, I think there is evidence of like some rewrites happening and whatnot, because I'm thinking of that sequence where we have the whole concept of kidnap and murder the firstborn sons, and like that just gets foiled with like one scene of Batman like pulling the guy out of the truck, and then a delivery note after that. Like that could have been a great setup for a scene of more Batman action and really having him be heroic, and it just gets resolved like very anticlimactically.
I agree with you completely. That goes to what I was talking about earlier of like, there's no struggle for Batman. Some of the biggest plans are just foiled by, oh, you forgot Batman existed. Like that's like the concept. Like, oh, you're gonna do this. Nope, Alfred pressed a button. Like what happened? I didn't understand there was no struggle to solve that. You just solved it. Right. But I will say I do love the letter though. The little the firstborn children of Gotham will not be attending. Yeah, it's so good.
The firstborn thing, including that speech from Penguin where he says, I was their number one son and they treated me like number two, I think goes back to a script. Yeah. Flush me down the sewer, treat me like number two.
It was Matt's reaction that really got me with that.
I think that goes back to a version of the script and where Max Schreck was his brother, his younger brother, who they held in high regard. Max was supposed to be a Cobblepot at one point in the script, and they abandoned it.
Interesting. That makes sense.
All of that goes back to Shrek.
I think it's just a poop joke.
In the end, so to speak.
What's your bottom shelf, Dave?
Cats gnawing on Selena's and Kyle's fingers and making her Catwoman. That is the dumbest thing that's ever been in a movie. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I really wish I could disagree because I love Catwoman in this movie, but it's real dumb. What about you, Jason?
I can keep it similar to Dave on just like little stupid things like that. The blood on the front of Selena's face in that scene where she tears up her apartment. She falls backwards, like 8 stories.
She falls through a window, though. A piece of glass could have got her on the way out.
Possibly,
Right.
but like, dear God.
It's a weird place for it to get her, though, for sure.
And then the cat's not going for that specifically.
Everybody's entitled to their bottom shelf, and I won't argue that like it does play out that way. But my interpretation of that scene is like, I don't think she got her powers from the cats. I think she was brain damaged, as Max Schreck said, and she just believes that she has these 9 lives, and that's what keeps her going. It's like a psychosis.
Yeah. So like part of me when she goes back thinks, oh, she's got a concussion when she's in her apartment afterward.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. She goes, I don't even know, I think there's a possible brain damage. He does say, who knew Selena had a brain to be damaged? But I think it's also that she's just vengeful. She's just like, I'm done. I've been being the kind secretary all this time. Sorry, executive assistant. I've been being the kind secretary all this time, and now I'm going to like go all in, and I'm just going to be who I want to be, and I'm going to defend other women, and I'm going to save myself. I'm not going to need a Batman anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it is just not even necessarily brain damage, but just like emotional damage of someone trying to murder her, you know?
Yeah. Well, she hit several like awnings on the way down, so I can buy that she didn't die. I want at least.
I'm not buying that, but I get it. I get how that works in filmmaking, but
I at least need. Because I feel like she died. I feel like she straight up died, and the cats brought her back to life by gnawing on her. And even if that's not the case, I need a line to explain why she suddenly knows how to fight.
Right.
Yeah.
Like why she is like good enough to fight Batman, for Christ's
and do like 17 backflips off screen when needed.
That's fair.
It would have been nice if she had like a like something in the background, like where she went to whip camp or something as a kid.
Right. It was a summer camp called Whip and Flip. They taught you to whip and flip.
Okay, my bottom shelf is just going to be the limiting of Batman as a character and like his lack of growth or lack of. To me, there's just an absence in this movie of the real like advancement of the Batman story.
A void, perhaps.
Yeah, I'd like to fill
I'd like
that
to feel
void.
her void.
What about top shelf? Top shelf. I'm going to go with Catwoman, just throwing it out there right off the top. Catwoman's my top shelf. I love her. She can do no wrong. I like the headcanon that me and Jay Scotty just came up with, that she didn't actually, there's no like mysticism. It's just, she's either brain damaged or she's whatever, and she's just great, and I love her, every bit of her. I like how cheesy she is. I like how big she is. Catwoman's my jam.
My top shelf spins right off of that. And I'll fine tune it a little bit by just saying the relationship between Batman and Catwoman and Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle to that end, because we've had, a couple of different depictions of Catwoman at this point, and I feel like in The Dark Knight Rises or even The Batman, like they paint her as more of an anti-hero, and like that is present in here. She does have some redeemable qualities, but like again, like I grew up with the animated series, and I know she was always a villain first and foremost before she was an anti-hero, and like that's something that's been a more recent adaptation. So this remains like I think my favorite like live action depiction of Catwoman for all those reasons.
I dig that. Yeah. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm going to go with performances in general.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, and some of the lines some of them are fantastic. One that we didn't mention going into your Catwoman thing, in the Selena version, how could you be so mean to someone so meaningless? I loved that fucking line. And
so good.
The way, again, the performances, the relationships, like the between the characters, the way Max handles that scene, like that is such an amazing walk-in. All he's literally doing is walking around the fucking like that's his whole thing is blocking.
Yeah.
And he just destroys that scene, and she sits there like reacting to it in a way that's, I don't know, I was completely enveloped in the scene. But between like her, Max Schreck, Keaton, like you said, kind of has a limited role in certain ways, but still does an amazing job. I love Danny DeVito's cartoony kind of performance. I mean, how do you not put him in that kind of makeup and tell me you're not going to do something weird? Like,
yeah.
I enjoy all of that as far as that goes. I don't think they missed a beat from Jack Nicholson as far as the actual performances go.
Danny DeVito, I love him in this, but I can't. He is forever inextricably linked to It's Always Sunny for me now.
Absolutely.
And so like that like Frank or whatever character just kept bleeding through for me, and I was just like, I can't help it. I keep thinking of Frank every scene he's in.
So it just kept shooting. Yeah.
I made this point on Mission Impossible the other day when we were talking about Ethan Hunt and how his character didn't do much. But now that after what you just said, Jason, made me think about Catwoman and her like arc, and like I think this. If it had been a viable option, and I realize why they wouldn't have done this, but this absolutely could have been a spin-off of the first Batman and just been a Catwoman movie. Like, it's so much her story.
Yeah, wasn't Michelle Pfeiffer supposed to get her own solo Catwoman after this?
Yes. And then after some rewrites, it wound up being Halle Berry, and several years later.
And won all the Razzies.
Yeah.
But this movie is her creation, and it's so much. It ends with the Max Schreck. It like the first Batman, like ends with him on a rooftop, I believe, and this one ends with her on a rooftop. Like I don't know, it just feels like her movie so much to me.
Can I just jump back real quick, and because I just remembered Tim Burton talking about spiritualism and animal totems and how it was supposed to be bat, cat, bird, and I'm pretty sure because of that the cats eating her fingers were supposed to be them imbuing her with the spirit of the cat.
Okay.
Sure.
The poster is literally a totem pole.
The poster is literally a totem pole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, bat, cat, bird.
Sorry, I just thought about that.
What poster is a totem pole?
Batman Returns is the characters' heads on top
There
of
are
each other.
three heads stacked in exactly that way.
But that's not in the movie.
No, thank God. But that would have been a weird scene to line up.
It leaves it the ability to be grounded for me, and I'm fine with it.
My top shelf is, or whatever it's called, is walking. Just walking. My favorite line in the movie is, Bruce Wayne, why are you dressed as Batman?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Because he is Batman, you idiot.
Oh, it's such a great line.
But yeah, I love Christopher Walken just all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the, but I do enjoy a lot of the intended themes and a lot of what they were going for. Oh, I also really enjoy. I played This City Like a Heart from Hell.
What the hell does that even mean? But I get it.
But yeah, the lines, a lot of the lines in this movie were just like really good, really great.
Yeah, I agree completely. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for being here. I really had fun doing both these movies, and can't wait to talk to you guys about The Flash when it comes out. So if you haven't, please subscribe. We'll be talking about The Flash in just a week or two. Very pumped. Dave and Jason, tell us about DC On Screen.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us.
Of course.
We are DC On Screen. We cover the multiverse of DC produced. I can't do this on your show. I do it every week.
We cover the multiverse of DC products, whether they're on TV, movies, animated, whom and whatever, which is becoming more relevant with The Flash coming out as far as the multiverse part.
Yeah. And I'd like to bring it full circle, if I may, to the very beginning when you were talking about, Matt, when you were talking about the disgusting penguin eating the fish. To be fair to the fish, if you eat anything like that, like I hurt my back, and then I at Walmart, I got one of those Tasty Cakes apple pies, the glazed apple pies. I was just really hungry. So I'm in the parking lot, walking to the car, eating this Tasty Cakes apple pie, limping because my back is out, and I'm grunting because my back is out, and I'm like, and then like I noticed this woman looking at me like in abject disgust, and I was like, oh my god, it's Oswald eating the fish.
Yeah. And in the distance, 4 penguins arrived with rockets strapped to their back to aid you in your efforts.
Which has got to be like one of the top shelf moments, honestly, is like when Keaton is in the bat boat, and like the penguin shows up with a rocket on his back and shoots, and like Keaton just like evades it, and then has this little moment where he like looks back like, the hell?
This is my life now? Jesus.
It's pretty great. Pretty great. Well, everybody check out DC On Screen. Jason, Dave do that show for 8 or 9 years now, and they've been making great content. Great content. Jay Scotty, tell the people where they can find you online.
Yeah, please find me at Animation Deliberation. It's the podcast that takes action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously. And it's a really exciting time to be a fan of animated content. We just had Across the Spider-Verse hit theaters, and wow, what a ride. If you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go out there and see it, and then check out our instant reaction we did, and look forward to more coming soon.
I want to see it so bad, man.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good.
It's very good, and I'm going to be on their full episode they've got coming up. So if you like that, please check out Animation Deliberation. It's not out yet, so go subscribe. Just go subscribe. That way you'll see it when it pops up. Do it. All right, guys. And check out strandedpanda.com for all of our other shows. We got lots of shows up there, things we're doing right now, and lots of things coming here in the Bingers feed. And in just a couple weeks, we'll be talking about The Flash.
And you're about to debut your new show, Foreskin Follies, right?
That's a different network. I wasn't going to connect it to the Bingers Assemble stuff. So
I'm sorry.
The audience won't hear this. I'll have edited this out. But yeah, that's on a different network.
Beginning tier of that is $5 a month for stills.
Yeah.
That's on my podcast OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay to mention because it was inspired by this movie.
Yeah, well, all of my sexual exploits are inspired by this movie, as we've discussed.
Right, as we learned.
There's just going to be a bunch of people who donate $10. Like, I get it, but I don't want to watch. $10. Here you go.
It's all inspired by penguin storylines, though. So. Welcome to Foreskin's Follies.
Somewhere in between. I'm somewhere. There are 2 wolves within me, Dave. There's a penguin and a catwoman. And it depends on who I throw the fish to. Okay. You guys have a great day. Peace.
Sounds like a wonderfully terrible place to end it.
All right. There it is. I hope you enjoyed that. We had a lot of fun discussing Batman Returns. Let us know what you thought. Drop us a line. We'll be back soon with more DC goodness. If I understand it correctly, before The Flash zips into theaters, we'll be posting a review of the prequel tie-in comic, The Flash, the Fastest Man Alive. You know, just for shits and giggles. I'd be interested to see how closely they stick with what wound up in the movie. But that should be out soon. I'm going to go read it right after recording and posting this. Thanks for listening. See you later. And keep some DC on your screen. Hey, thanks for listening to DC On Screen. Our theme song is by Jason Goss and Michael Shackelford of Galactic Engineers. The incidental music is by Michael Shackelford and Kevin MacLeod. You can rate the show on Spotify or rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Doing that really helps push our show to new listeners, so your help would be much appreciated. You can also contact the show at DC On Screen on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or email us at dconscreen@gmail.com. To become a patron and get ad-free episodes and exclusive content, go to patreon.com/DCOnScreen. Your reviews and feedback may end up on a future episode of DC On Screen. DC On Screen is a production of Maladjusted.tv in association with Stranded Panda. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever damn platform you use.